G'day guys. This is about anemia, this video. It's going to cover the issue that I've noticed some people in the carnivore community talking about, that they're sort of plagued with, low levels of anemia. They've been consuming, regular amounts of meat and stuff like that. And I don't exactly know how much they are consuming, what may be adequate or what some people may think is enough. I may consider way too low. I usually talk about a couple of grams of, so rather than, the 1 gram or 1.5 gram or something like that. Even for women, I mean, for men, I sort of consider 2.5 to 3 plus being far better, and for women at least around about 2.2, or even a bit higher than that. Doesn't bother me. I think it's fairly good, and there's plenty in the literature showing that enough protein is quite beneficial when it comes to not only the general anemia, but it's actually furnishing additional taurine, which helps quite a bit in that regard. So some people may struggle to consume enough, meat. They just, I don't know. I mean, people have a different sort of attitude. Some people like to consume a bit more eggs or dairy or seafood or other things. They may not be able to hack on a daily basis enough meat to get sufficient taurine, and that can be a bit of an issue under certain circumstances. Now, I'll just get into the sort of, let me just share the screen. Okay, so pretty much I did actually this video back on the 24th of April. So that was on people with sickle cell anemia and stuff like that, and cover taurine on that. So if people want to go back and check that one out, they should. That provides a bit of information in that regard. But we'll go into these studies. This is a taurine. This is basically a bit of research work. I can't get access to the original study. I tried to, but I couldn't actually get the link. So it is related to this study here, but it's not exactly the sort of the same sort of study. Anyway, let me get into that. So taurine enhances treatment of iron deficiency anemia. So this is a sort of a review on that other study, and they do refer SIRDAC, so which is this study here. As I said, I couldn't get the whole review because there's more in this review, but this is all I could get. So basically, they just cover how the 51 female university students with iron deficiency anemia were treated with 325 milligrams a day. I consider that quite low. A slow release ferrous sulfate, so basically an iron supplement, for 20 weeks. The women were grouped into pairs according to hemoglobin concentrations. The members of each pair were randomly assigned to receive, so they made sure that they had very similar levels at the beginning, which is really important to be able to see, is there a dose-dependent change in that regard. And so, or placebo during the 20-week treatment period. Taurine was taken at bedtime, 6 to 8 hours after the iron personal communication in regards to that person, so before the iron supplement. sorry, after the iron supplement. Prior to treatment, the mean serum taurine concentration was significantly lower in anemic women. That doesn't surprise me. Than in non-anemic controls, possibly because of a lower intake of meat, definitely. A major dietary source of taurine in the anemic women. After 20 weeks of iron supplementation, the mean hemoglobin concentration increased significantly, and the mean serum ferritin concentration became normal in both groups. However, the mean hemoglobin concentration was 13.60 versus 12.79 G deciliter, and the mean serum ferritin concentration was basically 33.5 versus 23.8. So the other one was, with a p-value of that's very significant. And this is, this was high significance at that level in the taurine group than in the placebo. So that's the actual ferritin side. But when it came to the hemoglobin side, that's a very good p-value. So it was far, we can quite reliably say that the iron in the red blood cells was improved. Comment: these results indicate that supplementation with taurine increased the effectiveness of oral iron in the treatment of iron deficient anemia. Mechanism of action in taurine is unknown, so that we don't know the mechanism. We know it happens whenever you do any of these. There are plenty of other studies as well that have done this, and so they're repeatable. So we know it happens, but we don't understand fully the mechanism, how taurine basically, as I've talked before about sulfonation in red blood cells and how they hold oxygen and stuff like that. I've talked about that in the past. I'm not going to go into that at the moment, but I think that is part of the sort of component in the way it binds. It probably has an effect how in this structure in the red blood cells, how it binds effectively iron. So it's something that we need to do much more mechanistic research to work out exactly how it actually binds. It is possible that taurine, which is an antioxidant and cell membrane stabilizer, so we know that, increases survival time of red blood cells, could be a part of the mechanism, thereby increasing blood count. So that's another important thing. This is where it also works with sickle cell anemia. So it actually maintains that membrane potential. It basically maintains the integrity, so the red blood cells don't fall apart. So really good for people with sickle cell anemia, taurine supplementation. But at the same time, with people wanting to maintain more red blood cells, really important as well for people with anemia. So, but still, the exact mechanisms are still unknown. Whatever the explanation for its effect, taurine may be considered for women who have had difficulty correcting iron deficiency with iron supplementation alone. So that also goes for women in the carnivore community that may have issues with this, where they're eating plenty of meat, but it's just they're not getting the traction, so to speak. That's the study that these guys are referring to. I've already discussed that in the previous video, so go and check that out. And this is, I think there's something into this that is probably another reason. Scientists identify nutrient that helps prevent bacterial infection. Taurine, which helps the body digest fat and oils. Remember I've talked about, the bile salts and all that. You've heard me countless times talk about that, how important that is. We won't go into that. Could offer treatment benefit. Okay, scientists study the body, natural defenses against bacterial infections, have identified nutrient taurine that helps the gut recall prior infections and kill invading bacteria, such as Klebsiella pneumonia. It's hard to pronounce. The finding could aid efforts seeking alternatives in antibiotics. So taurine, meat, in other words, is very protective against those nasty bugs in the stomach. But this is the other point that we need to realize. What happens when you basically have too many pathogens? Your ferritin storages go up. That means the body, because bacteria can actually use iron, they hold on to it. So if you've got a lot of pathogens, that means you haven't resolved, an underlying gut issue. Remember, I've always talked about, if you're going to fix your gut, you need the B vitamins with vitamin D, 3 months, in order to bring back the beneficial bacteria, one step, but you have to combine that with that other, Reuteri, the Lactobacillus reuteri supplement for at least minimum 3 months, if not 6 months, to really take out. And I always say 3 months and then 3 months with the B vitamins and all that, because I want to basically really suppress C. diff and all these other nasties that exist. We want to basically knock them for 6, and also taurine, throw in taurine in there, which is what this is all about, because by reducing the amount, and also, let's not forget that bile salts will be enhanced. That means the better emulsification, the better functioning of the bile ducts and all that, and then the bile flow, which is good because it cleans out the small intestine. So all this all interrelates. You can see the benefits of a carnivore diet, the benefits of eating animal foods, how important it is. Especially if you're on an ancestral diet all your life, you're not going to have these issues because you're going to be getting continuously through your lifespan. Now, we come from bad diets, and so we've got underlying problems that we've allowed to exacerbate. You really become nasty, really become entrenched, and really chronic, in a chronic state of inflammation, a chronic state of basically really bad gut dysbiosis and stuff like that. So it takes a bit more time and higher doses for us. So you can't apply the same doses for something. You've got to apply much higher doses. And that's why I recommend, when you have this sort of stuff, anywhere between 3 and 5 grams. But remember, with blood pressure issues and all that sort of stuff, you've got to basically step it up. And as always, none of this is medical advice. This is just my personal opinion and the way I've applied it to myself in the past to fix my own gut issues. So that's basically, but we'll continue reading this. Okay, scientists studying the body's natural defenses against bacterial infection have identified nutrient taurine that helps the gut recall prior infections. We've already said that. Scientists from that microbiota, the trillions of beneficial microbes living harmoniously inside the gut, can protect people from bacterial infections, but little is known about how they provide protection. Scientists are studying the microbiota with the eye to finding and enhancing natural treatments to replace antibiotics, which harm microbiota and become less effective as bacterial develop drug resistance. Scientists observed that microbiota that had experienced prior infection and transferred a germ-free mice helped prevent infections with KPN. They identified the class of bacteria, delta proteobacteria, involved in the fighting these infections, and further analysis led them to identify taurine as the trigger for delta proteobacteria activity. So when you eat meat, you get more taurine. When you get more taurine, you enhance this protective bug mechanism, microbiome mechanism. That's what you want to do. That shows you quite clear why a carnivore diet is superior, because it has more taurine in it, and obviously it enhances this. If you're eating meat for all your life, like a Maasai, like an Inuit, you're not going to have these issues. It's only when you've been on kibble for too long or on a vegan diet that you get into trouble. You know? Anyway, taurine helps the body digest fats and oils, which I said earlier, and is found naturally in bile acids in the gut. Poisonous gas hydrogen sulfide is a byproduct of taurine. Scientists believe that low levels of taurine allow pathogens to colonize the gut, but high levels produce enough hydrogen sulfide to prevent colonization. Yes, so those nasty little bugs, when there's enough taurine around, they are prevented from colonizing. During the study, the researchers realized that a single mild infection is sufficient to prepare the microbiota to resist subsequent infections, and that the liver, gallbladder, which then synthesize and store bile acids containing taurine, can develop long-term infection protection. So when you're on an animal-based diet, your bile will be released on a regular basis, providing that extra taurine in the actual small intestine and running right through, which means it will cleanse it from the nasties, something that doesn't happen on a vegan diet, and especially on a kibble diet, because what happens is you release less bile. You know, low-fat diets release less bile, use it or lose it. Then we get gallstones and all that. That's why on a low animal-based diet now, gallstones are endemic. You know, diverticulitis is endemic. You know, gut dysbiosis is endemic. All these are endemic. Why? Because people are not eating enough meat. That is why. You know, eat your fucking meat, because it's protective. But if you've been on a stupid vegan diet, you will have these sort of issues. You come on a carnivore diet, these things will not resolve immediately. It can take quite a lot of time. We can speed it up. Supplement what? Taurine. Yes, the magic ingredient in animal foods. You supplement that, we can accelerate this. We can upregulate these protective mechanisms in the gut and clean out the nasties that the vegan diet and the kibble diet actually created in the first place. That's my personal opinion, obviously, you know. Others may disagree or whatever, but the reality is, if we take a look around, most people that have been on a non-ancestral diet have suffered all sorts of gut issues. Modern people that are on kibble diets have endemic gut problems. So they didn't have them back in the 70s when they were consuming far more meat, when 50% of their diet was you know, coming from animal foods or more, where now it's less than 30. So I would say that lower taurine level has something to do with it. Anyway, the study found that taurine given to mice as a supplement in drinking water also prepared the microbiota to prevent infections. However, the mice drank water containing bismuth subsilicate, a common over-the-counter drug used to treat diarrhea and upset something. Infection protection waned because bismuth inhibits hydrogen sulfide production. So all that crap medication that Big Pharma dishes out over the counter to deal with these sort of things, what does it do? It actually prevents taurine from doing its work, even if it's there. You use taurine, use the natural approach. Don't use big pharma's garbage that inhibits, like the statins and all that sort of shit, inhibits the natural processes that are synergistic with animal-based foods. Scientists from the NIH, another copwomble organisation, filled with vegetards and a whole lot of other crackpots. But anyway, National Institute of Allergies and Infectious Disease led the project in collaboration with researchers from the National Institute of General Medical Science. So these must have been those few scientists that actually do give a damn of looking at other mechanisms. The National Cancer Institute, the National Institute of Diabetes and Digestive and Kidney Disease, and the National Human Genome Research. So at least some people in this organisation are looking at taurine, because taurine helps. Good for a lot of these conditions, because I've talked about the fibrotic, breaking down fibrotic stuff in the heart, in kidneys and all that, and, being very protective for all the organs throughout the body. And, even when it comes to cancer, it has a lot of utility there as well. So it's an important nutrient found only in primarily animal foods, especially in red meat. So let me just jump out of there. I'll stop sharing. So my comment to you in the carnivore community: eat your fucking meat and don't neglect the importance of meat in your diet. So obviously people that have got certain issues with both pathogens and stuff like that, which can affect the uptake, the uptake of iron. So, this is an important thing a lot of people don't realize. And this is probably the reason why in the past, when people did have some pathogens and stuff like that, and they stored iron, because they had enough meat in the diet, enough taurine, eventually that got sorted. It didn't become chronic. And this is where I think that people that have come on the carnivore diet, not eating enough meat, because, still they have those sort of things in their mind, of avoidance of too much protein. They still have a fear of protein for ridiculous reasons. At the end of the day, as long as you're not consuming alcohol or consuming, carbohydrates with the meat, your insulin to glucagon ratio will be at 1.3, which basically means it will be low. I mean, fasting is 0.8. That means where there's more glucagon to insulin, there's only 0.8 insulin to 1 in terms of glucagon, the sort of ratio. So when you're eating meat, it's very low. When you're eating just, which is also not engaging the Randall cycle, when you're just eating a potato, it's 4, substantially higher, your insulin, 4 times that of glucagon. But still, you can basically be in a catabolic state. How do you prevent being in a catabolic state in a carnivore diet? Eating more meat. That's the whole thing. You don't eat enough meat. You basically become too ketotic. We don't want that. Tribal people don't do that. They maximize. They go after meat. They maximize, eating plenty of protein. We see it in all tribal societies. They will feast, go to town on meat. Stop fearing meat. It's only when you combine it with sugar, that's when you've got deleterious problems. Otherwise, it's not a problem. And you basically are giving you're protecting your gut, in a sense. By getting more taurine in there, you're basically suppressing the pathogens and basically providing more space for the beneficial. This is why gut improves. The beneficial bacteria improve on a carnivore diet. But if you really have got a lot of pathogens and all that, you obviously have to do that protocol that I usually recommend, which is the Dietary. for at least, 4, maybe 6 months. And then also to enhance the beneficial bacteria with vitamin D, with a B50 complex, at least 3 months. Three months of that, no more. And I would always recommend, if you can find a supplement which has pantothenic acid in it, which is 50 or less, actually less even better. There are some around that are basically down where the other ones are 50 and pantothenic acid is down to 25. The reason for that is because it stores, and that can create issues like insomnia and other things if you get too much stored. That's about it, guys. I hope this was interesting for those who have, these sort of anemia issues that haven't been resolved. They're more than likely due to either not consuming enough of the foods that are required, or some sort of underlying pathogens in the gut that haven't been cleared out and need to be sorted. So you may have to go to that higher level. But remember, it's not medical advice, and you always should seek it, even though it's going to be coming from cockwombles that follow the the regular sort of bullshit. But I have to say this sort of bullshit for the YouTubia. But beyond that, guys, you need to basically always, the one important thing is blood pressure tablets. So if you're on those, you have to go slowly. So second week, 2 grams, third week, 3 grams. And when you get to the, when you're on the second gram, go to your doctor, get the blood test, their blood pressure checked, adjust, get the doctor to adjust the meds down, and then do it again when you go to 3, 4, and 5. So depending how bad your condition is, you may only need to go up to 3 grams. But if you're a bit more problematic, you've done 3 for let's say a month or a couple of months, like 2 months, and still it hasn't really resolved, then go to 5. But if it's starting to resolve, probably a 3 is more than enough. It depends how old you are. If you're over 60, I would say definitely go up to 5. If you're less than 60, 3 is probably going to be more than enough. Anyway, I hope you got something out of it. See yous.